3/4 of a generation. When it comes to our mother, this we know for sure. She is richly deserving of all of our admiration for reaching the age of 95 and still being a vital force in our lives. When we children were growing up, she wasn't your typical nurturing type of mother, but she was an interesting mother. She had a lot of varied interests, which exposed us to a greater outside world than what a lot of kids were exposed to. While it's true that you wouldn't find her at home baking cookies, you might have found her earnestly looking up the practices of a seemingly unknown religious sect in central Romania.
So we discovered when we were trying to put this together that there's so much of her personality to discuss that we've had to condense the highlights into 10 key points. Number 1, professional level gardener. If you don't know that a Pterocaxum officinale of the order Asterales is a common dandelion, don't worry, she'll still tell you how to get rid of them in your garden.
Number 2, world traveler. Often with her good friend Martha Ratch. Martha, put your hand up. Yay! Martha! The ashrams of India, the guest houses of rural China, and the camel rides of Egypt would be a lot poorer without all the business that Mom has given them over the years. She was once literally thrown off a train in Egypt for insubordinate behavior. Literally. She was also accused of being a stowaway in China. It was only her travel guide who saved her from being kicked off the plane. True story. It almost killed her, but traveling to Australia at the age of 80 set a pretty high standard for most senior tourists.
Okay. Number 3, astrologer. If you find your blood rising as you talk with Mom about a Gemini who's governed by Mercury with his sun in the 10th house and a Leo rising, you know that you're talking about Donald Trump. Now, as an amateur astronomer, I can assure you that if you want to discuss astrology with Mom, you'd better come well armed with your facts and expect a tough fight.
Number 4, overachieving student. Our mother surprised everyone in the family when she announced that she wanted to start religious studies at the University of Toronto at the age of 65. I entered U of T the same year, but luckily we never met up at any keggers I could
Surprising, really?
Of course. To rub it in a little bit, she graduated with flying colors and can now officially marry you, bury you, and then check in to see how you're doing in the afternoon.
Number 5, sports fan. That might surprise some people. If you haven't traveled all the way to Vancouver in the middle of winter to watch men in sequins doing side-by-side twizzles, inside edge foot sequences, and fully rotated jumps, then you can't call yourself a real fan of figure skating. And be forewarned, if you come to visit when skating is on TV, you're going to get an icy reception.
Number 6, intellectual. If you hope to beat my mom at Scrabble, crosswords, or in a trivia contest, you'd better be prepared to read 2 or 3 books a week on every subject from aliens to zoology. My mom will discuss almost any subject with authority and isn't afraid to speak her mind. You do not want to get into a discussion about crop circles with this woman.
Number 8. 7, sorry. Number 7, author. If I ever have to write a long speech about Mom, I don't have to bother contacting all of her old friends for juicy stories. She's already done the heavy pulling herself. I just have to dip into getting here was half the fun, and I've got enough material for a dozen speeches. The story of how she won a cooking contest when she could barely boil an egg? Classic. It's all in the book.
Number 8, daredevil. My mom's a natural risk taker. She heads blithely into dangerous situations with hardly a moment's pause. How do I know this? She married my dad after only 3 dates. She also had 2 sets of twins 16 years apart, and that takes guts. Or too much wine, I'm not sure which. Although she seems pretty grounded, she can also be a bit of a dreamer. Years ago, she agreed to let Dad teach her how to drive a car, and she thought this would end well.
Number 9, amateur klutz. Despite having lived through the space race, the computer revolution, the cracking of the genetic code, and the dawning of the age of robotics, Mom still can't set the clock on her kitchen stove. I'll just stop this train of thought right here to save further embarrassment.
Number 10, martial artist. Our mom is one tough cookie. Just over a week ago, she was mugged and assaulted at the Morningside Library. I mean, who else gets assaulted in the library? The incident happened at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. A man ran up to my mom, grabbed her purse, and tried to run off. Not to be made a victim, she grabbed him and she tried to fight him off. At that point, he threw her down and she flew back and hit her head on the stacks. Unfortunately, he got away, but Mom put up a valiant fight. Even though she injured her hand, head, and hip, she refused to go to the hospital and has been recuperating at home this past week.
Okay, well, that's it, the short list of personality traits. But we have one more to add. Sue, Kath, Kim, and I would like to thank Mom for having the foresight to let us live our lives without interference. When we needed or wanted her, she's always been there for us, but she's the very opposite of the meddling mother, and for this we are eternally grateful. So Mom, happy 95th. You deserve every bit of our admiration.
Oh, she's going to speak. Okay.
You have the mic.
Could I go over there?
Yeah?
Sure.
Okay. So you have to hold the mic fairly close.
I have to what?
Hold the mic fairly
Do you want
close.
to see?
Okay.
Maybe not.
I found out about this party about 2 weeks ago, and I thought, oh, that gives me plenty of time to write a speech. Now, wasn't sure what I could write about, and just last week I read a story that purported to say that Queen Elizabeth, on her 90th birthday, said, "There's nothing to congratulate about a 90th birthday. The best that you can say for it is nobody is going to be shocked or surprised when you die."
We might be, actually.
Anyway, I thought, well, a good speech should have some jokes. So I went to the library. You notice I didn't go to the internet. I went to the library, and you all know how that turned out. So much for jokes. Then I thought, well, perhaps I could talk about the old days. But that didn't fly either, because I had written this memoir, and I had pretty well forced all my family to buy a copy. And they already know all the stories, so that won't work. Then I thought, well, I can always give them hints about how to grow old. And I thought about that one for a little while and discovered I don't know. Yesterday I was 25, today I'm 95, and I don't know how it happened. It just happened organically. But I think I should have started the speech with a real thank you to all the people who have turned out to say happy birthday to an old lady who was past her best before date. And I love you all, and thank you very much for coming. And I would like to give my family, my children particularly, a really great thank you for putting this all together, for Brooke for supplying all the primroses, and Sue said that she has carpal tunnel syndrome from making all the decorations. So thank you very much, kids, and thank you all for coming. Thank you. I love you all.
Longevity.
She doesn't know. She doesn't.
That's it. I don't know.
That's it. And you promised me.
In a way, that's good.
I'll get some.
Yeah, because then you don't have to steer clear. I'm telling you not today.